Most companies think HR is about people. In reality, it's about systems that decide how people are treated at scale. Now, layer AI into that, and suddenly those decisions aren't just made by managers, but they're made by models, workflows, and data pipelines. So the real question is, how are we building better workplaces? Or are we automating broken ones faster? So pause and let's bring that in. Today, I'm joined by Emillie Fenton, Head of People at Three-Sided Cube, a company building tech for good. We're going to break down what actually happens when AI meets HR, where it works, where it fails, and what most companies are getting completely wrong. Emillie, thank you for joining.
No worries. Glad to be here.
What I'd love you to do, Emillie, is introduce yourself. No one can introduce you better than yourself, but tell the world, well, the people watching this, about yourself and your journey to where you've come to today and to your role today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm currently head of people at Three Sided Cube. My journey started a long time ago, as all journeys do. I started off in retail as I think you either do retail or hospitality when you're a fresh faced 16-year-old. So my journey started off in retail, and through going to university, coming back, I then stayed in the retail space and became a store manager. So that involved a lot of managing people and a lot of, managing a site. From there, I decided that I would very much like to have my Christmases back. So I decided to go more into the corporate world. So I joined a business technology company in their HR team. I was there for around about 5 years, working on HR recruitment, culture, kind of building that up. And then I came across the Three-Sided Cube. So not a whole lot of jumping around. I kind of am focused on the kind of areas that I want to be in. And for me, Three-Sided Cube, the tech for good ethos was really important to me. It came at a time just after COVID where I think a lot of people were questioning, what am I doing in life? This pandemic that absolutely made life stand still. Like, what am I doing that's helping the world? What do I want to do? So I really wanted to join somewhere that was trying to make the world a better place, because it's not great. It
Yeah,
wasn't great 5 years ago, and it's not getting much better.
I know. It sort of feels like we started in there was COVID, and it's just been a slow decline of just the world around us, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
We're also fortunate today, guys, to be joined by the CEO of Kumo HR, Lucas, over here. How are you doing, Lucas?
Really well. Thank you very much, Antonio. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you on, sir. And by the way, I don't call him sir all the time. Yes, sir. He actually demands that. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, when you mentioned about earlier around getting into retail and whatnot, and or you people either choose retail or hospitality, that was the same thing for me. I started in hospitality, funnily enough. And I always find that my children, when they grow up, I actually want them to start in hospitality or start in retail, because actually I started in hairdressing. That's a lie. I started my career in hairdressing. I was an apprentice, and I was earning £500 a month back in the day. £500 a month as an apprentice, you know. But yeah, I think those roles are invaluable because they teach you about engaging with people. You know what I mean? You know, and customers can be great, customers can be bad, but you get all sorts of different customers. So yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that. And then the tips were good in hospitality as well, which was amazing. I used
Yeah, I
to,
was quite a lot in retail. No tips
yeah.
in retail.
So where did you work in? What location was it? London? Where was it?
No, down on the south coast in
Nice.
the Dorset area. Yeah, all around there.
Nice. Dorset. Love Dorset. So this tech for good ethos, let's talk about that for a second, because it's quite an interesting thing. What does that mean at Three-Sided Cube? And obviously this podcast is about you, but what does it mean at Three-Sided Cube?
So I think the main message around what tech for good is impact. I think it just comes down to having an impact in the world, whether that is on some of the hard hitting issues in the world, like helping to tackle deforestation or climate change or health, or whether that's just having an impact on one person's life, not one person, but having an impact on people's lives. We have our kind of pure tech for good projects and clients that we work with. One of our biggest clients is the American Red Cross, around our blood donation app. So that has something like over 10 million downloads. I think it might be even more than that. So we've been working for them for over 10 years, and they're one of our kind of biggest clients. But you've got those types of projects. You've got ones that, as I say, help climate change and things like that. But also it is on a spectrum. We've got the tech for good, but it kind of spans to the more tech for neutral. And the tech for neutral things could be something like an app that helps new parents access discounts at a really essential time in their lives when they are very vulnerable, and maternity allowance and leave, it's not the best paid, so that's really important to them at that time of their lives. So yeah, it's a spectrum of impact is how I would sum it up.
Nice. And because obviously we look at the world changing right now. We were just discussing before the show just now around the AI char. Do you think AI is a tech for good?
It depends who uses it and how they use it. I think AI is much like a piece of paper. You can write, something amazing on it. You can write a Virginia Woolf novel on a piece of paper, or you can write Mein Kampf on a piece of paper. It depends what you use it for, really. And it's the people behind it, the data that we're putting into it, that makes it good, neutral, or I don't want to say evil, but let's go with bad.
I
Emily,
saw an old clip surface the other week. Sorry, Lucas. I saw an old clip surface the other week, which was of Elon Musk, and he said that we are summoning the devil. We're summoning we're summoning demons, basically. And this was in like 2019 or something like that. He was on a panel with AI, but obviously he's well into AI right now with Grok. So, but he's quite a sensational character, isn't he? So we don't know what he's saying. But you're right. It depends on who's using it. But when intelligence gets to a point where it's self using it, which we're almost there, like probably about a month away, then concern is, does AI have sentiment, and does AI have feelings towards humans, negative or positive? And if indifferent, then do they care about humans? Because if they're indifferent, you don't really care, do you? You know what I mean? So just something to ponder while we head into this roller coaster of a podcast. Lucas, you were going to say something.
yeah, no, actually, I like the analogy of the Emily. It's like a paper, and you have so many things in the life. You have invention of dynamite. Somebody goes, "Wow, we can help people," and then somebody, "How can I use it to do something bad?" And in your philosophy, tech for good, is there something, because like you say, evil or bad? Is there industries or things that you wouldn't touch as a company that you see yourself as, okay, you know what, we don't want to be involved, we don't want to put our name behind? Is there
Yeah.
anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. We do turn down business. We turn down clients. We turn down projects, potential clients that don't fit with that ethos. We also don't very much are aware of greenwashing. We don't want to be part of that. We don't want these big, for example, a petroleum company coming to us and saying, "Hey, we really want to make an app to make our emissions greener or help our customers." Cool, love that for you. But you could just stop what you're doing and the world would probably be a better place. So there is a line that we definitely draw when it comes to who we work with and who we don't. And part of that is because we have our own internal ethics that we work with and morals, but also because of the type of people that we have in our team. We're really intentional about who we hire. Our recruitment process isn't just about who is the most technically capable. We're looking for people who share that mindset of wanting their work to have impact in the world. And because of that, we've got an incredibly strong culture where everyone is aligned around similar values. So if we started bringing in projects that completely go against the kind of tech for good to tech for neutral spectrum, we would probably lose really good people who are like, I didn't sign up for this. I wanted to make a positive impact to the world, and this isn't cutting it. So yeah, we have to be very careful. We're very considered as to who we work with and what space we work in, because of that, because of our culture.
We're seeing that HR is becoming more, as I said earlier, about an operational infrastructure and not a support function. So if we look at, the companies such as yours, let's say if you removed HR, or any company for this matter, if you removed HR and the impact mission, okay, or towards that impact mission, and you walked into a company, what would break first, do you think?
I think That's a very interesting question. What would break first? Well, first of all, I think I'm actually going to disagree with you that I think HR is becoming more operational than kind of that support network. I think it needs to be a balance of the two. It has to be more operational, particularly at scale. Obviously, we're a relatively small business. We've got around 50 employees. But when you do get to that global scale, there definitely needs to be that organizational structure. I think particularly with the with AI coming into that structure, I think if you lose the support side of that, then you're going to see retention dropping. You're going to see people not caring, I think. And I'm fearful with AI, with the way that some companies, some HR teams might use it, that will completely replace that supportive nature, because that's what HR should be. It's support, and that is a support for the business, but it's also support for employees as well. It's equally as important. And it's definitely a consideration with AI that it becomes too operational and we lose that support side of it, because again, that's what makes our culture so strong. We are an incredibly supportive team, and that goes from the top down, including the HR team. We are very approachable as a team. Our C-suite is very approachable, and that's what works so well for us as a culture, having that balance between the two.
Love that, and that's great that you push back on that. I think that's really good because I believe that HR is a support function. I think HR is quite a few things to an organization. Do you find to create that culture? Do you think a culture is created or manufactured, or is it just innate in the people that you hire?
Again, I think it's a mix. I think it's definitely, created, manufactured, that's very similar descriptions, I think. And the people that you bring in, that's part of your culture. So we know the type of culture that we want here at Cube. It's one that's based on trust, ultimately, flexibility, and supporting each other. You spend the majority of your life in work. So it needs to be a place where you feel supported, you want to be there, because that's how you get the best work out of people as well. That's how you keep people motivated, by keeping them challenged, by keeping them, interested. And we are we work very hard to keep our culture how it is. And a lot of that is getting a lot of feedback from our team. We have consistent engagement surveys. We have them kind of twice a year. We have the chance for anyone to ask anything anonymously, and that will be addressed by C-suite, by whoever is the best person to answer that question. That's on a weekly basis. We put that out. And then we also have a company meeting at the end of each week we call Happy Half Hour, where that could be a team talking about a project they've worked on or a feature, or it could be a HR update, could be a fun quiz, anything like that. But what we've been doing recently, because the business is adapting, it's changing with with AI coming in. We've had kind of open forums where we encourage people to ask the CEO, the C-suite, anyone, anything in front of everyone. So, they don't have chance to prepare a rehearsed answer. It's a genuine conversation. And I think that that's the most important thing. And that helps create the culture that we have of transparency, of honesty, of openness, and of trust.
Amazing. Go on,
And,
Nick.
just to kind of add to it, I think, Emily, this is exactly what it is. I think that's one thing you can, as a business, you have a vision, you want to be, tech for good. As a hiring strategy, you have amazing strategy, people that see the same vision, are the values. But then you also need to culture. If you just like hire right people, have the right, motto, it's not going to be growing the culture. You need to have things in the place that's going to help you to take it to the next level, keep the culture and grow it. You put all the best pieces and then you hope everything just going to stay the same. It's just not going to happen. You still need to have that pillar. And I think so many times it is the HR that creates the pillar of, building the culture, driving the culture, and making sure that culture that you start and you want to keep is going the right direction.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
agreed. Go on, Emily. Sorry, excuse me.
we're almost the bridge between C-suite and employees. We challenge C-suite in some of their kind of how they're going to approach things, how they're going to communicate certain things, in order to make sure that it's coming across in the exact right way for the employees. So that again is something that's really great about Cube, is that our C-suite, our CEO Duncan, openly wants to be challenged, and he's not afraid to change his mind. If you come to him with a good argument for something, he will listen and he'll go, yeah, actually you've got a point. Great thinking. Like, and that's quite rare, I think, in a CEO to have that open-mindedness. And a lot of the times it's because they have the mission and what they want to do kind of in their heads and they know exactly what it is. But when CEOs start kind of opening up to getting that feedback and feel comfortable being challenged and changing their minds, I think that's when you get a really, really strong culture.
Yeah. Do you think people are getting more needy though as employees?
Are they getting more needy? I think that employees expect more from their work, from their workplace nowadays, definitely, in terms of benefits, work-life balance, that sort of thing. But I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the generations coming through the workforce now, they've seen the millennials doing the rise and grind and the hustle culture, and they've realized that that's not sustainable and it's probably not healthy, and they want a better balance so that they can also have time to value other things in life like family and, having family, friends, hobbies that makes someone a more well-rounded individual and have a better life. Like, work isn't everything. And yeah, so I think they do expect more. But I don't think it's a bad thing.
Yeah, my concern is that sometimes I think we could actually and I believe in work-life balance. I worked a couple of years ago. I went to work full time in the city, and it was just terrible. I've got PTSD from it, right now. And so I believe that work-life balance. I enjoy dropping my kids to school. I enjoy picking them up and whatnot. I think it's very important. My point is that do you think that we can? Do you think we are maybe? I want to choose my words correctly, but actually I'll probably just be upfront, mollycoddling employees. And then we're not giving them that ability to be pragmatic and to actually, to have the ownership to be able to thrive. And I'm not saying that we have to wake up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. That hustle culture, I hate it. But what I'm saying is that when we give, when we sort of give too much to individuals, employees, then they sort of become complacent. That's a human nature thing. Now, this is just my opinion. We're here to put the world to rights. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about that?
There's definitely a balance to be struck, for sure, for sure. Can't just, you, as a workplace, there's a line. You're not someone's, personal therapist. You're not someone's financial advisor. You are a workplace at the end of the day. So there are limits as to what you can and should offer your employees. That's not to say that we can't offer them things that help with those other things in their lives, like having an employee assistance program that covers counseling, that helps with financial well-being and things like that. But our job definitely isn't to be everything to everyone. There definitely does need to be line. And that can be blurred in HR because we are the support function. We are the people that people go to when they have problems with work. So naturally, if you have problems outside of work or even, work, we're the natural people to go to. So there's definitely, it's a fine line to be struck between the two, for sure.
Do you find that you do become an agony aunt quite a bit?
Yeah. But that's the part of the job that I like. I like that human connection. I like, speaking to people on a real level. You can get really bogged down in HR with process, with automation at the moment, and, lose sight of the fact that we are people. And it's nice to
I'd like you to be my HR, actually. I think you seem like a great HR person. Honestly, very nice person. And let's talk about process for a second. Just a quick one, Lucas. You have some noise coming from your microphone. So I think from your table, your phone is maybe vibrating, so it is coming through. Don't worry about it. We'll just, it just seems like the microphone is making noise. But so just sit still and don't do anything. Just speak. Really high quality audio here, guys. Now, yeah. So talking about the process, and you mentioned we will steer it into AI. I think process and AI go hand in hand. Now, if we put AI into a process, but let's say we put AI into a poorly managed process or or a poorly run organization, what do you think happens? Because I think HR, we mentioned that support function, absolutely. HR is there to make sure operationally the people are supported, but that also means process. So if we have a poor process already and we put that into a poorly run AI into a poorly run company, what does that actually do?
Well, I can't imagine anything particularly good. I think you need to have a strong base in place first. You need to have, first of all, a strong team who knows what they want AI to achieve. I don't think you should use AI as we could just put it in here and let's try it in there and let's do that. Like, it needs to be, what are the problems that we have? That's the starting point to figure out, what do we need fixing? What do we need solving? And how and if can AI help us with that? Because sometimes it can't, and sometimes it shouldn't as well. And I think that's really important as well, having that lens. Can AI help us? If it can, should it help us at this point? Because AI is inherently biased. Like, it has learned on data that is biased, whether that is, racist, or it's stereotyping, or, whatever it is. It's bias because it's built on humans, and humans are flawed. So we always need to have that in the back of we all need to have that in the back of our minds when using AI. And it's not just kind of the obvious ways in which it can be biased as well. There's some that, outside of race and disability, that sort of thing, the protected characteristics, there are other ways it can be biased as well, like recruitment, for example. Tools that shortlist candidates or rank applications, great, but really efficient on the surface. But we just need to be careful about the biases. For example, if a system is prompted to prioritize candidates with no gaps in their CV, because, you don't want anyone who's had long gaps. That's always a bit, why have they had long gaps? Before, you might get on a call with that person and ask them about it. But if the AI tool that you're using is trained just to categorize them out or put them lower on the list, that could potentially affect a woman who may have taken time out to care for their children or family members. So what might look like a neutral, efficient tool can be quietly reproducing existing inequalities. So it's just having that, can AI help? Should AI help? I think when
Love
it
it.
comes to this.
Absolutely love it.
And I think
Yeah.
so. This,
Sorry, go on, Lucas.
yeah. So this is, exactly. It's something that everybody talks about the AI and, how it helps organization, how efficient it is. And a lot of people go like, let's introduce AI, exactly. You need to have the problem and need to have solution and strategy. It is so important. Otherwise, you're just throwing something. And if it's something is broken, it's just going to make it much bigger. The problem is just going to get bigger. You're not going to solve it. You're going to create it even worse. And also, I think the other thing is a lot of time people think like, oh, you put the AI and it's going to work. You also need to be very specific what you're using the AI for. I think more narrow you do something, much better it is. So you can have a system, for example, the way we built Kumo, it has 105 different AI tools inside for specific tools, because when you make it too broad, like you said, the bias is just grows, the issue grows. So you need to be very specific what you're using it for, how it's going to work, what's the outcome of it, and how it's going to add value, rather than just the noise of, oh, we have AI, it does help us. It doesn't.
Yeah, I think AI should. My opinion on AI is that it should support people. I don't think, even if you let these agents loose, and we're building a few at the moment, they're still not like they're very intelligent. They're very intelligent. And very efficient, but too efficient. So they'll skip steps, and those are important steps sometimes, which is which I think which is why we need people at the heart of everything. But just going back to those sort of arbitrary hiring requirements that companies have, gaps in CVs, where do these stem from? Because if you looked at my resume, you'd think that actually I've had a load of gaps and whatnot, but I haven't. I've been sort of working for myself for 9 years or so. But organizations don't like that. They don't like when people work for themselves. They think that you're just some like sort of dosser, dosser. I haven't heard that word in years. That's a great word. Yeah, companies don't like that. They like the person who's worked for company, or not even say, and you can't jump from company to company because they think you're a job hopper. That's the terminology, isn't it? Where do these arbitrary things come from? Because I'd like to think that I'm quite talented at what I do, and I think I could add value to any organization. And there's many people like me who are out there who have not had the traditional career trajectory, but they could go into an organization and completely kick ass. Do you know what I mean? So why do you think as a culture, as a corporate world, company world, why do companies fall into the trap of having these arbitrary hiring requirements?
I think it's very much companies that are stuck in old-fashioned way of thinking and haven't adapted. I remember being presented with a whole list of things to watch out for on a CV, and it was things like, as you said, gaps, job hopping.
Antonio Junior.
Your name is not the top. Yeah. Name and picture, do not hire. But also things like people who have come from a military background. I was
Wow.
told, like, that won't fit with our culture. And I remember thinking, like, but why? And I think it's people who are so entrenched in an in the more traditional, older world where it was a very corporate world, and men wore suits every day. Obviously, you're wearing a very nice suit to
Oi.
the end, but but
Hey.
women wore, high heels to work, and you never worked from home because you can't possibly do good work from home. And it's just that old-fashioned mindset
Yeah.
that is. I'm worried for companies that still think like that, because they're not going to be the types of companies that adopt AI and new practices. And they're the companies that are going to get left behind, not just from a technological side, but from people who want to work there. The younger generation, as we talked about before, they want more from their workplace. They want to be supported. They want to be understood. They want that flexibility and that trust. And, if you've got this mindset that starts from the recruitment process of, we can't possibly have anyone who's not worked in the last year or two, or we can't possibly hire anyone who wants to work part-time, you're going to get left behind. You're not going to have the workforce that you need. And you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, I think so. So I am wearing suits, and and Lucas can vouch for this. I'd made a conscious decision at the start of this year to start wearing suits. Because first of all, I'm 36 now, and I can't wear skinny jeans anymore. I know I can, but and I'm not dissing anyone who's 36 and above and still wearing skinny jeans and whatnot. But I just felt like I just felt like I you know what I mean. I've gotten to an age now where I need to change my dress sense. And so I decided to go all in on suits. But the challenge is now I've got no clothes. I've only got suits, and so I've got no summer clothes. So I was saying to my partner, I was like, we need to go shopping. We need to get some, because I've literally got one pair of shorts and a jumper. And so that's what I'm wearing to football now, or jogging bottoms, for the kids. So I've got zero, nothing else but suits.
Yeah. My
But
husband.
I think what I saw actually was interesting because, and this is more towards sort of the millennial generation. Millennials now are starting to dress smarter. If there's a trend, and I didn't. By the way, I wasn't doing it because of the trend, but they're dressing smarter because it's like almost the opposite to what people are doing. And I think I like a suit. Okay, Emily, I like a suit, and I won't not wear a suit.
It's the thing, like, you've got a choice. That's the thing.
Thank
It's
you.
not like you have to wear this because that is what the company demands.
Yeah.
You will want to wear a great suit. You wear a great suit, and that is a great suit, and it makes you feel good.
Thank you.
And that's the key thing. But
Yeah.
it's definitely companies who have these kind of list of rules that you just think, well, they feel arbitrary in this day and age.
Emily, so do you see maybe, because you see now quite a big shift in the HR, it's like exactly you said, there are some things that companies are looking, but there's becoming, especially with the age of AI, a lot of companies are looking for skills. So hiring people for skills and, looking where the skills are, developing skills, where the skills gaps are, how we can redeploy, because you're going to have a lot of people that were in certain center. Now the center is overtaken by AI. And now we have either you're going to get hundreds of thousands of people go, or they have a skills that you can redeploy for something else. And I think so recently there was quite a nice article about how IKEA moved they have customer support and they have thousands of people that were let go, in the sense that AI could take over and answer a lot of questions, but they redeployed the people and they created them and give them the tools for them to become interior designers. And as an interior designers, they actually make $1.5 billion profit for the business. So, we just kind of looking at, rather than looking at people, okay, this is the CV. It's you have some skills. You are a unit with skills, and how we can redeploy it. And I think so if we can also apply the AI into it in certain ways, okay, we are taking these people with certain skills from this area of the business, how we can utilize the skills, or can we show them how to grow, how to develop new skills, or have a learning programs to give them, retrain them, give them the tools to be redeployed somewhere else.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is going to be one of the skills that is going to be so important for yeah, people in university right now, young people, even, looking at my nearly 2-year-old son, what is the workplace going to look like when he is older? Like, what are the skills that he's going to need? Because, at the moment, people joining university, they're training for jobs that might not necessarily be there or be very different by the time they graduate. So, one of the most important skills that I think everyone needs to be learning is adaptability. And that is what companies need to be supporting their employees. Like IKEA, like that's an amazing thing that they did. They could have just, saved a lot of money, but that's not the right thing to do. If you've got this workforce that is loyal and dedicated and wants to work and is adaptable, then you should absolutely retrain and help and give them the support and training that they need. And, a lot of junior roles are not going to be there anymore because AI will come in and like customer service agents, for example, they will replace them. So, students and parents as well, kind of teaching their children, we need to focus more on things that AI can't do. Things like critical thinking, communication, ethical judgment, like understanding context, asking good questions, collaboration, those types of what's been called soft skills in the past, which I hate that term. Those are the things that are going to be so important for the younger generation. AI can generate something that looks like an answer, but it can't tell you whether it's the right answer for the problem that you're solving. That
Yeah.
still needs that human judgment.
There's 30 to 35% of some markets have a reduction in junior roles at the moment due to generative AI. And you mentioned soft skills there. Yeah, we hate the term. I wrote an article like literally about 10 years ago when I was, no, 11 years ago when I was working for Accenture. And I was saying there's a soft skills gap coming. And, remember everyone's talking about the skills gap, the tech skills gap. Now that's been completely filled by AI, but a soft skills gap. And I said there was a soft skills gap coming because, people, even, in the generations, millennials at that time hated calling people on the phone, or I don't like calling people. I literally do not. I will actually give the phone to my partner or anyone who's around to just make a call because I don't like speaking to people in general. I like this type of conversation, but I think there is a soft skills gap coming because of technology, and I think we're in it right now. So you mentioned about, turning the ship almost, and it's very important that children have those skills and you teach them how to be able to communicate, how to be able to problem solve, how to be able to even think creatively. And I think that's the in the years to come, with AI being able to do all those processes, creative thinking is going to be the new gold. People who can actually think of ideas and not just think of them, but enact those ideas, distribute those ideas, and work with AI to make that happen. Now, I challenge you to think about this. Will there be enough jobs for that role? For those people to be able to think creatively? I don't know. I'm actually challenging you guys right now. because if AI is taking processes, then those junior roles we don't need, and we're seeing a reduction in them. Now, what we're going to have is just a load of senior people working with AI, in my opinion. Now, I don't know. I'm putting it out there. And then to your point, Lucas, on the IKEA, I'm going to be a cynic here and say that that is just a brand exercise. That's why they did that, because they knew that if they let go of all those people, that people would stop buying furniture and flat packs.
I think as well, like it's the responsibility for companies now to make sure that AI is enhancing learning, support, and development. I feel like we've got a window of opportunity the next year, maybe not much more than that, but the next year or so, while we're figuring out what our new world is going to look like, that's the window for companies to look at, how they are operating internally, but also look at their employees and what they are going to, what their plan, what their strategy is. Are they going to replace all of their employees with AI agents? Do you want to be the type of company that does that? If not, you need to figure out, well, how are we going to repurpose? How are we going to make sure that people don't lose their jobs, because we really value them and we want to keep their expertise? So what are our teams going to look like? What's the organizational chart going to look like in a year's time? Like, that's the sort of thing that companies need to be looking at now. And then looking even more long term, I think organizations need to be building relationships with schools, colleges, and universities. I think we need to be working with education providers now to make sure that there is a more clearer connection between what students are learning now and what employers are actually looking for. Because the world of work is changing so quickly, and their roles that they're training for now, as I said, they're not potentially going to exist. So at Cube, for example, we're involved in our local university's employability skills program, which means we go into the university, we talk directly to students about things like how our hiring process actually works, what we look for beyond technical skills, how to stand out in applications, and also what kind of skills matter in an AI-enabled workplace. And also, more importantly, when to use and when not to use AI in their applications. So I think that approach for companies, it's a win-win. It helps students really maximize their employability when they finish their courses, but it also helps us build relationships with that future talent much earlier and almost shape the students coming through into people that we want to hire that would add value to our company in the way that it's going to be in this kind of new world. So yeah, I think that sort of collaboration is going to be so much more important as technology evolves, because if we want the next generation to thrive in an AI world, we can't just expect universities to solve that on their own.
Yeah, true. Very, very, very true. Are universities relevant today? That's the question as well.
Yeah, I
And
think,
these are questions, by the way. I don't have answers to them. They're just questions,
yeah, I mean, I have the answers. It's okay.
Yeah, you seem like you do.
No, I definitely don't. I definitely don't. But I think universities are still really relevant and important. Maybe not not as much for the actual courses that they are doing. Although, don't get me wrong, you can't just be a lawyer without going to university at the moment anyway. But I think the key thing that universities bring students is those soft skills, is learning to work with people from different backgrounds, to collaborate, to communicate. Because if you don't learn those types of things at school. So if you go from school to the workplace, there's that gap. And that's where in the past jobs in hospitality and retail would have bridged that gap. But if those types of jobs, and they're not going to be the first cab off the rank to be replaced, but if those types of junior roles where you learn those types of things are going to be less, then university is still a good place for students to learn that in a safe environment. They've got 3-4 years to build those skills. And particularly then, if employers get involved in their last couple of years or even throughout, to shape them even more as to, great, you've got all these amazing communication and collaboration skills, but this is what we're looking for in the people that join us. Then you'll have a stream of students, of young people who have the skills that you're looking for, that don't necessarily need to go into the entry level roles, but they've worked on their adaptability and they're really keen to learn, and they've got this creative thinking. And yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a key thing going forward.
I feel sorry for the entry level roles and the people that went into those entry level roles, because when I went into the city, for instance, had my first job, in the city, we'd go out to the pub afterwards on a Friday, drinks, those were great times, great times. And not too long ago. Do you know what I mean? This wasn't too long ago. This was, 12, 15 years ago, Well, actually, how long ago? What year are we in? 26. So yeah, I can't remember, to be honest. That just but yeah, not too long ago. I feel sorry for them because you learn how to go to work with a hangover. You learn how to
Yeah.
have a beer at lunch on a Friday afternoon and still go back and do a bit of work. Do you know what I mean? AI doesn't have that problem. That's what I'm saying. But you learn that stuff. You learn the tricks of the trade. And it was good times. And now, people work from home on a Friday, don't they? So it's, no one has those Friday afternoon beers, and Thursday is the new Friday, isn't it? They say. On a serious note, though, I think, you do learn a lot being a junior, and it's not just about the doing the job. It's all the other things that you do, in a company, the problem solving, and you're having to do this. You're basically the office lackey. Do you know what I mean? So you do a lot of stuff, and I think that's important. Now, I have a concern as well. So we look at the junior roles going away, but also we look at the generational people coming through. Now, I'm going to out my stepdaughter here. I'm going to say to her, but basically, she's 14. She's a lovely girl. Don't get me wrong, she's an absolute lovely girl. Yeah. So we were in a restaurant the other day, and I said, "Oh, your first job should be in a restaurant." She's like, "I would never work in a restaurant." And that's maybe an us problem, because obviously we've treated her too well, whatever, and not taught her the importance of it. Or maybe it's just she's just being 14 year old. She's moody all the time. But I do think that the new generations coming through have a different. You mentioned a different expectation of work. But I think this is also my age, and now I'm by the way, I'm just having a conversation with myself in my head at the moment. I think this is also my age, and that older when I was younger, the old generations, this generation's not the same, the millennials aren't the same. But I do think that there's a different expectation of work, and we have a look at people. A lot of people won't do certain jobs now. Whereas we didn't have a problem when we were younger, working in hospitality, working in here. And I think that's because a society's been the society is too good, too wealthy, or I suppose. In a general terms, right? Whereas, like, if you need to work, you will do any job. Do you know what I mean? And you won't have a problem with it. The junior roles are going right, but then the people don't want to do them anyway. We're now in a place where parents think that millennials are bad and stayed at home for too long. I'm gonna have a 50-year-old stepdaughter with me. You know what I mean?
Good luck with that. Yeah. It's a valid point for sure. And I think, social media has helped fuel this, because I've got teenage nieces, although a couple of them are in their 20s now, and they've grown up as this social media generation, and they were very late compared to myself to join the workforce, because they would just stay on their phones looking at these like amazing lives, thinking, well, I'm not going to get that if I work down at the local newsagent. But also they're seeing like these influencers that are earning lots of money through just being on their phone. So there's this whole new revenue stream that they think they can tap into. I will say that I think they get to a point, and that's our role as parents as well, when they get to a certain point and they realize they're not going to be an influencer, and it's actually not a great lifestyle potentially anyway, because you're constantly online. But also they need money in this world. They need to get a car. They need petrol to put in that car. So my nieces now all work in retail, but it took them a while.
Nice.
So get there. And yeah, I think it is our jobs as parents to guide them and not give them everything on a silver platter as much as we want to. And, I want my son to have the best life possible, but I think instilling in him the importance of bringing value to the world, whether that is in a hospitality role or a retail role, or whether, he wants to become a carpenter, or however he wants to contribute. I think that is a really important message for us to instill in the young people. But it's definitely going to be harder for them. Like, there's no way around that. Like, with AI, with just the way the world is, it's going to be harder for them, and we have to prepare them for that. and support them as much as we can as parents, but also, as I say, as organization, as companies as well, because they're the future workforce. And if we ignore them when they're young and hungry, they're not gonna, they're not gonna want to join you later on. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's either that or they stay with us, living with us when we're pensioners. So actually, we have a duty to kick them out. So does the future scare you, Emily?
Yeah, it does. Not for me, but for my son. It does scare me, but it's fear of the unknown, because you don't know what it's going to look like in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. So we can only do our best and work with what we've got at the moment and learn to adapt. I think that is going to be the king soft skill, is to adapt and figure out, well, where can I add value? Where do my skills fit in? And then teach that to the younger generations. But it is a scary prospect because it's changing so quickly, and we've never seen anything change things so quickly before. The pace is wild, and it's only going to get quicker.
Amazing. On that note, that was a great conversation, Emily. Thank you so much. I'm just conscious of your time. Now, if you could leave people with one piece of advice, doesn't have to be HR, could be just don't stand under a ladder, If you could leave them with one piece of advice, what would you leave the world with?
Goodness, that is a big question. Be kind. Like, in all aspects of what you do in life, be kind. If that's at work, with family, with friends, with just strangers. The world is on fire and it's not a great place overall. But change happens when everyone does small changes and brings like one moment of joy into someone else's life. That's what life is. So yeah, be kind and stay hopeful.
Well, you certainly brought joy to my life today, Emily. Thank you so much. Really great conversation and an absolute pleasure. Let's do this again in a couple of months. And you have a great way of looking at things from a positive aspect. A lot of the questions I asked today were steered towards the negative, but you actually turned it around and actually made me think. So thank you so much for that. Lucas, great to see you again. And we'll see you on the next one. If you would like to follow Emily, the link to her profile is down below. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Share the video, share it with people. It's how we can share ideas. Otherwise, see you on the next one. Take care. 1 second.